I was going to make the point how the technology stood the test to Samantha Smith there, who's a victim turned campaigner, that there's a danger sometimes it will feel to many people, it certainly does to me, that in blaming the council, in blaming former colleagues of yours nationally in the police force, we run the risk sometimes of forgetting that there were perpetrators here.
Yes, I think we do. And I want to see these perpetrators arrested, charged, and if sufficient evidence is there, I want to see them convicted. But beyond that, yes, we've had this inquiry and the findings, of course, are shocking and shameful. But I want those responsible in positions of authority to be investigated. And if evidence can be found to support charges perhaps of misconduct in public office, because doing nothing is misconduct, or even disciplinary charges that might apply to those who are still serving, I want to see accountability. Like yourself, all those names of those towns that you've mentioned sicken me. I want accountability. I want to see not only perpetrators, but those who allowed it to happen in the dock as well.
Bleksley, just hold that thought, if you would. I just want to bring in Harry Mount, editor of The Oldie, but also a journalist of many years standing, who's with me here in the studio. And, Harry, I want to ponder on this point, really, that this is one of those stories that lots of people have brushed under the carpet, and that's why we're talking about the Telford inquiry right now, with an astonishing number of young victims. But actually, I can think back to the interventions of a Labour MP, as was Anne Cryer, interviewing her on a couple of occasions about this way back when. And then she was denounced, including by Labour backbench colleagues, as a racist for even bringing it up, because a lot of the grooming gangs predominantly were of Pakistani heritage. I think back to the interventions of Andrew Norfolk, formerly of the Yorkshire Post, then the Times, as a journalist, and Maggie Oliver, the detective in, I think in Rochdale, wasn't it, who became a whistleblower. It took individuals, just a handful of individuals, to turn the tide on this, and it ought not to have done.
No, and actually the really good thing is that we can talk about these horrifying things now, and there's no danger of any of us being called a racist. That row is over. But the extraordinary thing, I thought your interviewee, Samantha, was extremely moving, and her testimony obviously completely convincing. And it's extraordinary that someone like that, a child, but also a highly intelligent child, would go and complain and should be largely ignored. Because, as you know, on the whole, poor children who are abused stay quiet. So the tendency should be to very much to believe them and certainly to investigate it. So it's extraordinary that they weren't investigated.
Peter Bleksley, as a former Metropolitan Police detective, what do you make of those reports suggesting that this isn't a historical problem? It remains a problem.
If that is the case, then it is absolutely scandalous, deeply, deeply concerning, and something that needs to be addressed immediately on behalf of the victims, like your courageous contributor, Samantha, and many, many hundreds more, if they are still being trafficked, abused, raped, and many other crimes. It's a central tenet of policing that what policing is carried out without fear or favour. That clearly broke down in so many in this case and many others, because they were fearful of causing tensions within the Asian community. That was the finding once again in this Telford inquiry. It is shocking, it is appalling, and those who carry a warrant card simply shouldn't have one if they cannot carry out policing without fear or favour.